My boyfriend of 8 years was cheating with my best friend. My entire friend group knew and laughed at me, but I took the mic at her wedding and exposed them all. I'm 28 years old. I run my father's office supplies company, and 2 years ago I went through something that basically destroyed everything I thought I knew about the people I trusted. The thing is, I had been with my boyfriend Dominic for 8 years, 8 full years, and the last 4 living together. And I was ready to get married, have kids, all that life that's supposed to come after being with someone for so long, you know? But Dominic always had excuses, that it wasn't the right time yet, that he wanted to wait until we were more financially stable, that we weren't in a hurry, and I, like an idiot, believed everything. I guess I should have seen the signs. But when you're in love and you trust someone, you don't go looking for problems where you think there aren't any. Everything exploded at my best friend Brooke's wedding. Well, ex-best friend now, obviously. Brooke and I had been roommates in college. I mean, I'd known her for like 10 years, and we were part of this group of 7 friends from college, 4 guys and 3 girls, who were still super close after graduating. Dominic was also part of that group. Actually, that's how I met him, and I thought all of them were my family. You know what I mean? Those people you can count on for everything. How naive I was. Honestly. Brooke's wedding was at a pretty fancy hotel, and the thing is, she was going to marry this guy Arthur, who was like 60 years older than her. Literally 60 years. And we all thought it was weird, but nobody said anything because, well, Brooke had always been kind of a gold digger. We all knew that. Arthur came from a super rich family, and Brooke had basically gotten the perfect marriage contract for herself, or so we all thought. The day before the wedding, there was a rehearsal dinner and the whole group was going to be there, but I got one of my horrible migraines. The kind I get sometimes that basically leave me useless. So, I told Dominic to go without me, and that I'd try to make it later if I felt better. I took my medicine at home, but it didn't work. So around 9 at night, I decided to go to the hotel anyway because there was a pharmacy nearby and I needed to buy something stronger. I got to the hotel parking lot and walked to the pharmacy, bought what I needed. And when I was walking back to the parking lot to go home, I saw my car. And when I say I saw my car, I mean I saw Dominic and Brooke practically eating each other's faces inside my car, in the back seat, like they were horny teenagers who couldn't wait. I stood there paralyzed, literally couldn't move my legs, and I felt like someone had stuck a knife in my stomach and was twisting it. I don't know how long I stood there watching. Maybe it was seconds, but it felt like hours. And the worst part is I didn't know what to do, whether to go over and yell at them or just leave. I ended up leaving because I didn't trust myself not to make a scene right there, and I walked back to the hotel like a zombie. I had the keys to the room Dominic and I were going to share that night, so I went up, but when I got to the hallway, I heard voices coming from another room. The door was slightly open and I recognized the voices. It was our whole friend group. I walked over to knock on the door and tell them I'd arrived, but then I heard Valerie, one of the girls in the group, saying something like, "And poor Maya doesn't even imagine that her boyfriend is fucking the bride tonight too," and everyone started laughing. I froze there outside listening. And basically I heard the whole group, absolutely everyone, making jokes about how Dominic and Brooke had been having an affair and everyone knew except me, and how it was so obvious and how I was so naive that I didn't notice anything. One of the guys, I think it was Mark, said something like, "Maya is so trusting that Dominic could literally bring Brooke to their house and she'd think they were just being good friends." And everyone laughed again. I felt like I was going to pass out right there. My hands were shaking and I wanted to throw up, but something in me decided I wasn't going to give them the pleasure of seeing me destroyed. I left that hallway, went down to the lobby, and sat there for like an hour trying to process everything. My boyfriend of 8 years was cheating on me with my best friend. My whole supposed family of friends knew and basically mocked me behind my back, and tomorrow was going to be the wedding day. My head was spinning, and the migraine got 1,000 times worse. But at some point during that hour, something changed in me. And instead of feeling sadness, I just felt fury. A cold and calculating fury I had never felt before. Dominic got to the room around 11 at night, and I was there lying down pretending I was asleep. He got in bed and didn't even come near me, which now makes perfect sense. And the next morning, I woke up and acted completely normal, like nothing had happened. I said, "Good morning." I asked Tim how the rehearsal dinner was, and he told me a bunch of lies about how fun it was and how everyone asked about me. We had breakfast together at the hotel restaurant with the rest of the group, and I smiled and laughed and acted like the same old Maya, while inside I was planning exactly what I was going to do. The ceremony was at 4 in the afternoon in the hotel garden. I got ready, put on a nice dress, did my makeup, and sat with Dominic in the chairs while we waited for everything to start. The ceremony started normally. Brooke looked beautiful in her super expensive dress. Arthur was standing there waiting for her in his suit, and the officiant began with all the typical wedding stuff. The time came for readings and speeches, you know, when friends and family can come up and say something, and basically nobody from Arthur's family had come because everyone knew this was a weird arrangement, and on Brooke's side, there were only her parents and a couple of aunts. I got up from my seat when the officiant asked if anyone else wanted to say something. Dominic looked at me confused, and I smiled at him. And I walked to the front. I asked for the microphone, and the officiant gave it to me without thinking twice because, well, I was the bride's best friend. It makes sense that I'd want to give a speech. Right? I stood there in front of all the guests. There were maybe like 100 people, and I started talking super sweet, saying that Brooke and I had been friends since college, and that it had been an honor to be part of her life for so many years. I saw Brooke smiling at me from the altar, completely clueless about what was coming. Then I changed my tone and said something like, "But there's something Arthur should know before marrying Brooke." And I saw how Brooke's face completely changed. She turned pale and opened her eyes huge. I continued saying that Brooke had been having an affair with my boyfriend Dominic for I don't know how long. That last night I had found them making out in my car in the parking lot, and that our whole friend group knew and had been hiding it from me while they laughed at me behind my back. I said everyone's names, Valerie, Mark, everyone, and explained exactly what I had heard the night before. The silence that followed was absolutely deafening. You could literally hear a fly. I looked at Arthur directly and told him, "I don't know what kind of arrangement you and Brooke have, but I thought you deserved to know who you're really marrying." Arthur looked at me, then looked at Brooke, and without saying a single word, he took off the microphone he had on his lapel, gave it to the officiant, and just walked away. Just like that, he left the garden, got in his car, a beautiful black Mercedes, I remember it perfectly, and drove away from the hotel. Brooke started screaming my name, like hysterical, and ran toward me, but her mother stopped her. Dominic got up from his seat and also started yelling at me. And basically, the whole garden became total chaos, people murmuring, the friends in the group trying to process what had just happened, Brooke's parents in shock. I simply gave the microphone back to the officiant, thanked him politely, like nothing happened, and calmly walked out of the garden. I went up to my room, grabbed the suitcases I had secretly packed that morning, while Dominic was in the shower, went down to the parking lot, got in my car, where 20 hours earlier my boyfriend was kissing my supposed best friend, and drove the 2 hours back home. The whole way I was shaking, but I didn't cry. I think I was in shock or something. And when I got to my house, the house where I lived with Dominic, I went in, locked all the doors, and then I allowed myself to completely collapse. I cried for hours, the ugly kind of crying where you can't breathe and you feel like you're going to choke. And at some point, I fell asleep on the living room couch. I woke up around 10 at night with my phone, exploding with messages and missed calls. Dominic had sent me like 50 messages saying that I had destroyed Brooke's life, that how could I be so cruel, that Arthur left her at the altar and she was devastated, and basically trying to make me feel guilty for what I did. I also had messages from some people in the group telling me I had crossed the line and that I should have handled things privately, and a couple of messages from people who had been at the wedding saying it was the most dramatic thing they'd ever seen in their lives. I ignored everything except Dominic's messages because I needed to understand what was going through his head. I responded with something super short, telling him he had 24 hours to organize when he was going to come get his stuff because I didn't want him in my house ever again, and that after that I was going to block him everywhere. He responded that we needed to talk, that things weren't how I thought, and all that typical shit cheaters say when they get caught. I told him there was nothing to talk about, that I had seen it with my own eyes, and that besides I had heard everyone laughing at me, so he shouldn't come to me with excuses. Then he sent me a super long message explaining that the thing with Brooke and Arthur wasn't a real marriage, that it was a financial arrangement, that Arthur was going to give her I don't know how much money and she was going to have financial security, and that they were going to have an open marriage basically, but that I ruined everything, and now Brooke has nothing. I mean, can you believe it? And he was trying to make me feel bad, because I ruined my ex-best friend's plan to marry a rich old man for money when she was fucking my boyfriend behind my back. The audacity of these people. Seriously. I responded that Brooke and her plans mattered absolutely nothing to me. that she decided to risk her entire marriage arrangement when she decided to stick her tongue in my boyfriend's mouth, and that they could both go to hell. I blocked everyone in the group except Dominic because I needed to coordinate the stuff thing, but I didn't want to know anything more about any of them. 9 days passed, 9 full days, before Dominic finally came for his things. I used that time to change all the locks in the house. Technically, the house was mine. My father had helped me buy it before Dominic moved in, pack all his crap in boxes, and basically erase any trace of him from my life. When he arrived, he tried to get in with his old key and obviously it didn't work, so he had to ring the doorbell. I opened it, let him in, and pointed to all the boxes that were in the living room. He tried to talk to me, tell me that it was partly my fault too, because I pressured him too much about marriage and he felt suffocated, and that Brooke was there for him in a way that I wasn't. That's when I lost my composure a little and yelled at him not to blame me for his decision to be a cheating piece of shit. That if he had problems with me, he should have talked to me like an adult, instead of fucking my best friend behind my back for who knows how long. He told me they had been together on and off for like 2 years. 2 whole years. And that everyone in the group knew, because sometimes they'd disappear together at gatherings, and it was obvious. My hands started shaking again from rage, and I basically told him he had 5 minutes to grab his boxes and leave my house or I was going to call the police. He left with his stuff, and as soon as he closed the door, I blocked him from absolutely everything. Phone, social media, email, everything. The following months were probably the hardest of my life. I had to work at my father's company and act like everything was fine, but inside, I was destroyed. Not only had I lost my boyfriend of 8 years, I also lost my entire friend network all at once, and my best friend turned out to be a traitorous liar. My family was incredible during that time. My dad especially. He basically told me to take the time I needed, and that he could handle the company while I recovered emotionally. I started going to therapy because I realized I couldn't process all this alone, and my therapist helped me understand that none of what happened was my fault, that their betrayal says everything about who they are as people, and nothing about my worth. I also started going to the gym, like I needed a physical outlet for all the rage and sadness I felt, and it ended up being one of the best decisions I made. I started keeping a journal where I wrote everything I felt, and slowly I rebuilt my life without all those toxic people. I made new friends, reconnected with people from work that I had set aside to spend time with the group, and basically learned to be alone and to be okay with that. Fast forward to 2 years later, which is now, I'm at the best moment of my life professionally. My father's company is growing a ton and I'm managing big projects that used to scare me. I got super fit. I go to the gym like 5 times a week, and I even ran a half marathon last year. Something I never thought I'd do. My family is amazing. My parents, my siblings, everyone supported me through this whole process and never judged me for how I handled things. And about 6 months ago, I started dating someone new. Someone I met at the gym, who is completely different from Dominic in all the good ways possible. This guy, I'm not going to say his name because it's still relatively new. But basically, he respects me. He listens to me. And when I told him the whole story about Dominic and Brooke and the wedding, his reaction was to tell me that I was incredibly brave for standing up for my dignity that way. He told me he also wants to get married and have kids eventually, that that's always been his life plan, and that he doesn't understand men who are with a woman for years without real intention of committing. It's refreshing to be with someone who has the same values as me and who doesn't make me feel crazy for wanting the normal things most people want. Last week, I found out through a mutual acquaintance, not from the original group, thank God, that Dominic and Brooke ended up getting married like a year after the ruined wedding thing. But they got divorced before their first anniversary. Apparently, they moved in together after I kicked him out, and it turned out that when they didn't have the element of the forbidden and the secret, they really had nothing in common and spent all their time fighting. It gave me a kind of sick satisfaction to know that, I'm not going to lie, like it confirmed that their whole relationship was based on the thrill of cheating on me and not on something real. I don't know if I'll ever forgive them. Probably not. And honestly, I don't really care that much either. What I did at that wedding was extreme, I know. And I probably could have handled things more privately. But at that moment, I felt it was what I needed to do. Brooke decided to risk her arranged marriage when she decided to cheat on me, and Dominic decided to risk our 8-year relationship for the same reason. So, the consequences of that are their responsibility, not mine. Sometimes I still wake up at night and wonder how many times they lied to my face, how many times they were together while I thought everything was fine, but each time those thoughts come with less frequency and less pain. What I can tell you is that experience taught me who I really am when I'm pushed to the limit. And it turns out I'm someone who doesn't stay quiet or accept being humiliated. Was it the most mature way to handle it? Maybe not. Do I regret it? Not one bit. And now I'm in a place where I'm genuinely happy, where I have real people in my life who value me, and where I'm open to building something new with someone who really deserves me. I guess sometimes things have to be completely destroyed so you can build something better from the ashes, right?